The Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, joins me now. Lovely to see you. Congratulations on your new job. Just discussing with Aubrey Allegretti a story on the front of the Sunday Telegraph suggesting that you are going to become the Trump whisperer. You're going to win back Trump. And I'm just wondering how you might do that when in 2017 you described the US president as a, quote, odious, sad little man.
Good morning, Camilla, and obviously I'm absolutely honoured and delighted to have been asked by the Prime Minister to take on this responsibility at this time when we've got both an enormous opportunity to invest in our defence and our armed forces and to look after the men and women who serve bravely in uniform, to care for their families and also to look after our veterans, but also the enormous challenge of a turbulent world. And look, the United States and the United Kingdom have the closest alliance of any two countries anywhere in the world. And if I were in any doubt about that before, I have seen firsthand this week just how deep and integral that alliance is.
Well, you must have been in some doubt about
and look,
it.
In terms of social media posts, Camilla...
The mask slips as Westminster shuffles the deck again. When the political landscape shifts under our feet in Great Britain, the speed with which principles are discarded can take your breath away. Take a breath, stay informed, and let us observe the latest theatrical performance inside the halls of Westminster. The spectacle of politicians retreating from their own past statements is hardly new, but watching a prominent frontbencher attempt to erase his own record in real time offers a fascinating glimpse into the mechanics of political. Welcome to Britain Underneath, the place where we strip away the polished broadcast soundbites and examine the raw power plays driving our nation. Before we dive into the heart of this unfolding story, take a quick moment to subscribe to Britain Underneath, for it helps the channel immensely, ensuring we can continue bringing you sharp, unfiltered analysis of UK politics every single week.
No, let me just finish, because 2019, the far right is on the rise around the world, threatening our hard-won rights, freedom and values. Sadiq Khan is standing up for Londoners and the country by saying that we shouldn't be rolling out the red carpet for President Trump. He is not a friend. So you've changed your tune on that, have you?
Well, fortunately, when it comes to social media posts about President Trump, I have that in common with many members of the US administration, and which I think shows that there's a lot of water under the bridge, that we will work together in the national interest, as the Prime Minister said in an interview this morning, and nowhere is the relationship between the UK and the US closer than on defence and security, where, yes, we have a dependence on the United States as Britain and Europe, an over-dependence, I would argue, and President Trump's been right to challenge Europe, including the UK, to step up and do more on defence spending. But we should also be proud of the fact that there is a codependence here, and the UK has skills and capability that the US relies on, a superpower like the United States. So we can be very proud of what we have in this country. It's my job to make sure that that is the case for many years to come.
Just to clarify, because you are now Defence Secretary, do you still think he's a sad, odious little man and far right?
Those aren't comments I would make today, no, Camilla. I'm looking forward to working with my counterpart, Pete Hegseth. We've had good conversation on Friday. We'll be talking again, I've no doubt, in the coming days, both about the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz, where the UK, whilst not taking part in offensive military action against Iran, is playing a defensive role to secure our own interests, assets and people and allies. But we've also, I think, got an opportunity and a responsibility once this war comes to a conclusion and we've got the conditions right to remove the mines in the Strait of Hormuz and secure free shipping. That's the conversation I'm having with my US counterpart and with other allies, to see what role Britain and our allies can play in performing that role at that time.
OK, so you've changed your mind on Trump. Do you still think that Israel is, quotes, committing war crimes before our very eyes?
I'm not going to resolve from the comments I made. Those are private comments that are now published, but I'm not going to resolve from them. And I would just say that one of the things that has made our long-standing friendship and alliance with Israel difficult has been the way in which Israel's conducted itself, both in Gaza and in the West Bank, where we do not support the action that Israel has taken. We, of course, always will and always have supported Israel's right to exist and to defend itself. And one of the reasons
The recent cabinet reshuffle has brought the usual parade of ambitious figures stepping into new, powerful roles. Among them, the newly appointed Defence Secretary finds himself in a rather delicate predicament. Years ago, while sitting safely on the backbenches, he pulled no punches regarding key global figures, particularly across the Atlantic. He publicly declared that certain world leaders were not friends of our nation and issued sharp criticisms on social media. Fast forward to today, with international diplomacy on the line and the responsibility of national security resting on his shoulders, those fiery statements have suddenly become exceptionally inconvenient. When pressed by broadcast journalists to reconcile his past declarations with his present duties, the tone shifted instantly. Gone was the uncompromising moral crusade. In its place came a masterclass in polite evasion. We were treated to classic political rhetoric about water under the bridge, shared geopolitical interests, and the overarching necessity of maintaining crucial military alliances. When asked directly if he still maintained those personal insults, the response was a gentle retreat, noting that those are simply not comments he would choose to make today. It is a stunning display of pragmatism over conviction, showing just how quickly strong beliefs can be traded for the keys to a government department.
I've been so concerned about Israel's actions is because I'm a friend of Israel, and I want Israel to be secure and to thrive as a democracy. And I think that's less likely with some of the action they've taken than more likely. And that's the context in which I have criticised Israel.
Hang on a minute. We've got our own top brass saying they're not committing war crimes. We've got no international court in the land suggesting they are committing war crimes. There's no official finding of genocide. So how on earth do you know better than top brass and international lawyers?
Well, of course, you're absolutely right to say that the question is one for international courts. What I'm saying, Camilla, is I'm not pretending I didn't make those comments, and I'm not pretending that I'm not critical of the way that Israel has conducted itself in the West Bank and in Gaza. Israel has been a long-standing friend and ally of the United Kingdom, and sometimes the test of good friendship is being willing to tell your friends things that they don't want to hear, but telling them in good faith and telling them because you think it's in their interest as well as the common good. And the test, I think, ought to be applied to Israel always is what would we do in their shoes? What's the standard that we apply to ourselves? And I genuinely think that it is in Israel's long-term interests to have a safe, secure Israel alongside a safe, secure Palestinian state too. It's going to take a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of statecraft to bring that about. That's a far cry from where we are today. But I'm afraid that both through rhetoric and through action, Israel has made itself less safe and the prospects for peace less likely. And I think that's regrettable as someone who's been a long-standing friend of Israel, has visited Israel, and wants Israel to succeed, be secure and thrive as a democracy.
This gentle pivoting exposes a wider, underlying truth about modern British governance. We often hear promises of principled leadership and unwavering integrity, yet the moment power is within reach, ideological purity is quietly set aside. If you value this kind of clear, unvarnished look behind the curtain of British power, please consider hitting the subscribe button to support the channel and keep us independent. Watching frontbenchers navigate these self-created traps reminds us that loyalty in Westminster is rarely to a fixed set of ideals. Instead, it is to the seat at the cabinet table. The central question remains whether our international allies, or indeed the British public, actually buy this sudden change of heart. World leaders are well aware of what has been said behind their backs, and no amount of polished television interviews can completely erase the public record. Yet the political establishment relies on the hope that the public memory is short, expecting us to move on to the next headlines without asking uncomfortable questions about consistency and character.
Do you know how many frigates and destroyers are currently in the Royal Navy?
I believe 5 frigates and 6 destroyers. And of course we can go through a memory test, Camilla, but
No.
I just say I'm barely a week into this job. I've got a lot to do too.
That's
but I
not
just
quite
I would
right,
just
I'm afraid.
say
That's not quite right. It's 6 Type 45 destroyers
give me the
and
answer.
7 Type 23 frigates.
I was one off in each case.
All right.
And look,
but do you
I'm
take the
probably
point
not
that
going to
you're
be
not really
hot on the memory
qualified to
test
be
barely a week
Defence
into the
Secretary
job.
because you've never been in the military?
So I think that's a fair charge to put to me as to why I'm not the Chief of the Defence Staff. Churchill said famously that we need experts on tap, not necessarily experts on top, and that's definitely true when it comes to the role of the Secretary of State for Defence versus the head chiefs of our armed forces. My job is to fight for the resources that defence needs, to make sure we've got the right policy and strategy, and to make sure that we are both investing in and modernising defence and doing so in a way that creates jobs and growth throughout our country. That's the task that I'll be undertaking.
All right.
Most
So John
Secretaries of
Healey-
State for Defence have not served in uniform, just as most Secretaries of State for Health haven't been doctors. And let me tell you, having been the Health Secretary, you could, for example, put an A&E doctor in charge of the health service, and what you'd have is someone who's really expert in emergency medicine, would no doubt instinctively get that and possibly prioritise that, wouldn't necessarily have the same insight in community health care, in social care. And
Sure.
actually what you need sometimes in fact always in government is objectivity. The ability to weigh up evidence and arguments, to listen to a range of perspectives across
Right.
the services you're responsible for, and then reach correct decisions. That
Okay,
was
well,
my track record at
objectively-
Health, where I delivered improved performance, improved
Okay.
productivity, balance
Wes,
the books in the health service for the first time in a
objectively-
decade, and it's that experience as a moderniser that the
Okay.
Prime Minister wants me to bring to this role
All
as
right.
Defence Secretary.
So your predecessor, John Healey, resigned because the Treasury didn't stump up enough defence spending. If John Healey now, as Chancellor, doesn't stump up enough defence spending, will you resign?
Absolutely, because I believe that we need to invest more in our defence, but I also know that the Chancellor and the Prime Minister share that commitment too. So that was the easy question for you. You sounded surprised. It was an easy question for me to answer because, of course,
As these political figures adjust their stances to fit their new offices, we must remain vigilant observers of the motives driving our government. Take a breath, stay informed, and always look past the carefully rehearsed talking points. If you found this insight valuable, please subscribe to Britain Underneath today to help us grow, and stay tuned for more sharp updates on the true state of British politics. Stay connected, stay critical, and join us again in the next video as we continue to uncover what lies beneath.